Hello, my name is John Babb. Thank you for joining us. Today we are discussing fire prevention and safety. Fires are one of the most destructive things in the world. In the United States, approximately 4,000 lives are lost to fires each year. Fires cause between $400 billion and $900 billion in damage in the United States each year. It is because of this it is important to prevent fires, and when they occur, extinguish them with a fire extinguisher or other implement to put the fire out. Call 911 and make sure everyone is safe and evacuate before getting out yourself. Today, I will emphasize how this pertains to my own city of Louisville, Kentucky, and discuss the basics of fire prevention and safety, as well as how this pertains to fire codes and other measures that are employed in fire prevention and safety. The most basic thing one must understand in fire prevention and safety is the 3 E's: engineering, education, and enforcement. Engineering is the application of science to create technology to aid in fire prevention and fire safety. Engineering can include fire-resistant materials, fire doors, fire escapes, fire alarms, fire extinguishers, and sprinkler systems. Education is teaching people how to prevent fires and what to do when there is a fire. Education can include various techniques for preventing fires. It also includes teaching people how to maintain and use anti-fire equipment. This equipment includes fire alarms and fire extinguishers. Finally, it involves teaching people how to stay safe during a fire and teaching them to safely evacuate the building that is on fire. Enforcement is making sure that buildings maintain fire safety by complying with fire codes. Enforcement begins with inspections, and corrective action is taken when violations are discovered. Enforcement covers the majority of fire prevention and safety plans, so it is what I will discuss next in more detail. One cannot understand enforcement without relating it to fire codes. Fire codes vary from city to city. I live in Louisville, Kentucky, so I will discuss matters pertaining to fire codes as they pertain to Louisville, Kentucky. In Louisville, Kentucky, fire codes are enforced by the Louisville Metro Fire Department's Code Enforcement Division. Code enforcement begins with inspections, which occur either periodically or when a complaint is made. If an inspection discovers a violation, then corrective action can include warnings, orders of compliance, citation, and in worst-case scenarios, the condemnation of a building. All buildings must be inspected upon completion, and those buildings must comply with the fire codes. The same is true of existing buildings, which are subject to inspection. There is, however, one exception. Historical buildings are not subject to fire codes. Part of compliance with fire codes is making sure that building materials meet a minimum fire rating. To ensure that the building materials meet this fire rating, they are tested, and this testing can be performed by Citation Fire and Safety, a company in Louisville, Kentucky that is approved by the Louisville Metro Fire Department to perform fire testing. The type of tests performed on these building materials are the ASTM test and the UL test. The ASTM test tests the surface building characteristics of a material, while the UL test tests the flammability of a material. These tests are required when there is insufficient proof that the building materials meet compliance. The test must be performed to establish standards, and they must be performed by an approved organization. Building materials that do not meet the minimum fire ratings are just one example of fire code violation. This fire code violation, like other violations, makes buildings unsafe. Other violations that make buildings unsafe include having excess amount of flammable materials, excess meaning that which goes beyond normal use, having a lack of fire exits, having weeds or grass that grows 20 over 20 inches in length. Also required for compliance with fire codes are plan reviews and structural controls. A plan review of a building is a review of a building's plan and before construction begins in order to make sure the building is in compliance with a fire code. Structural codes are inspections that are performed before the building becomes occupied in order to make sure that it complies with plan review. Plan reviews and structural controls are not simply a matter of compliance. But then again, compliance is never just about compliance, meaning it's not simply about obeying the law. Plan reviews and structural controls prevent fires and enable people to escape when there is a fire. That is what codes are all about, preventing fires and making sure that people can escape from fires. This is why fire codes and their enforcement are one of the most important aspects of fire prevention and safety. However, fire codes only go so far in keeping people safe and keeping people and property safe. Sometimes voluntary measures are needed. Surprisingly, the balloon frame construction does not violate fire codes in Louisville, Kentucky, despite the fact that it is one of the most unsafe types of construction when it comes to fires. So, not using the balloon frame construction is a voluntary measure to prevent fires, although ideally balloon frame construction should be outlawed. However, this is one way the fire codes fall short when it comes to fire prevention and safety. These shortcomings of fire codes are why compliance sometimes is not enough, and we should go above and beyond when it comes to fire prevention and safety. Fire prevention and safety is is a very important matter. It is important to understand how engineering, education, and especially enforcement is key to fire prevention and safety. Understanding enforcement means understanding fire codes and how they are enforced. However, the fire codes have their shortcomings, and sometimes mere compliance is not enough. It is important to do what one can do to prevent fires and minimize their cost to life and to a lesser extent property. Remember that fire prevention and safety is a matter of life and death, and fires are not only cost lives but destroy homes and businesses. Thank you for your time.